you think cancer is a genetic disease, you have no clue. You think it's working because your immune system is the attack. Because if the patient doesn't get a high fever, the immunotherapies don't generally work. So they work on the papers that people that get high fever. So it has nothing to do with the $200,000. So once you understand the biology of the disease, most of the stuff we're doing makes no sense. It's actually harmful. And as a matter of fact, the dirty secret of immunotherapy is we call hyperprogressive disease, which means that about 15 to 20% of people getting immunotherapies die faster because the immunotherapy kills them before the cancer does. So yes, there's 20% that do well, that can survive, and a lot of them do well because they had a fever. So when you put all that together, you got to understand the biology of this disease. It's really scary.
And that's why you are so amazing, because you understand the biology of what cancer is, explaining the mutations in the gene and the root cause of it, and then how to fix it. Because many people, I think many doctors, they just follow, and I don't want to say this in a bad way, but they follow what they've been taught in medical school. And they don't have the kind of the time or the power to actually do their own research and to understand the biology of not even cancer, but heart disease. Even we understand with, heart attacks, heart disease, that it's completely preventable. The question for you is cancer preventable?
Well, I mean, Otto Warburg said that, he said 80% of all cancers could be prevented. But now we understand he didn't really know, and this is where our work has expanded what Otto Warburg originally said. He was trying to focus on improving B vitamins and things like this. But the real way to, let's put it this way, it's extremely difficult to get cancer in any cell where the mitochondria in that cell are healthy. So healthy mitochondria prevent cancer. So the question is, how do you maintain healthy mitochondria? And that's why nutritional ketosis. Ketone bodies are burned in the mitochondria with unbelievable efficiency. My late good friend, Dr. Richard Veach from the National Institutes of Health, showed how mitochondrial metabolism increases the energy efficiency in mitochondria and produce very few reactive oxygen species, which are damaging radicals. And you can keep your mitochondria humming at the most energy efficiency if you can go into ketosis. Now, what is ketosis? Now, our species, human beings, evolved in a food-restricted environment. We were always, for long tens of thousands of years in our origin, we were always in ketosis because we had very few carbohydrates in the environment. We were always in a semi-hungry, starved state, and the foods that we ate were very, very low in carbohydrates. We'd kill animals, we would eat different kinds of plants, but we wouldn't have high carbohydrate foods. So the foods of our ancestors were very low in carbohydrates, putting us in nutritional ketosis. And that's why cancer in Aboriginal folks that still are on the planet, cancer is almost unknown, unheard of in these Aboriginal tribes of people who live according to their traditional ways, which was no high carbohydrate foods, a lot of exercise, your mitochondria maintained in a super energy state, and cancer does not exist. Let's put it that way. Only very rarely. It's almost like finding a needle in a haystack to find a tumor in an Aboriginal person who living according to natural ways. And yet cancer in our Western society is replacing heart disease, #1 killer. So now we should focus. How to prevent cancer is obviously, cancer is being caused by our Western diet and lifestyle. So that's what's causing cancer. So what is it in our Western diet and lifestyle that's allowing our mitochondria to become damaged, leading to dysregulated cell growth? And there's a whole range of things. Minimal exercise, massive amounts of highly processed carbohydrate foods in our diet, stress, mental stress of the kinds of jobs that we're doing. So you put all that together, and we put ourselves at risk, not only for cancer, but cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, dementia, Alzheimer's disease, macular degeneration. You can go down the whole list of chronic diseases, and you can start to see a dramatic increase in all kinds of inflammatory chronic diseases as the result of our diet and lifestyle. The genetics has very little to do with this. As a matter of fact, our genes protect us. They do the best job they can at trying to protect us from all this stuff, but we overwhelm the protective capacity of our body by putting ourselves into these very risky kinds of conditions. And the study that came out on Mediterranean diet reducing dementia and cardiovascular disease and cancer, it wasn't the Mediterranean diet by itself. It was a diet that had no highly processed carbohydrates. So you want to get cancer, you want to get demented, you want to get type 2 diabetes, make sure that you are obese and you keep your blood sugars really, really high. And then you'll be able to get into the crowd of those that have all these chronic diseases. And that's another thing. Obesity has now replaced smoking as one of the top risk factors in getting cancer. So, and if people were really, really, really interested in preventing cancer, we would not have an obesity epidemic. So all of this stuff is perfectly logical. But I have to be honest with you. The foods that are being engineered, highly processed carbs that are being engineered, are very tasty to a large number of people. They're cheap, they're convenient, and they're tasty. And we evolved to like very sweet carbohydrate foods. It's just they weren't available in the environment. Now they're available in an abundance, and we pay a price for that.
Absolutely. And many of my audience, we follow a carnivore lifestyle. So I'm very keen to hear your thoughts about, because you talk about a ketogenic diet, and that is primarily higher fat. And especially if you do have active cancer, even the likes of Dr. Boz, they talk about therapeutic ketosis. So that is increasing your fat, even sometimes decreasing your protein to try to flood your body with fat and ketone so that the cancer or anything that you have that is inflammatory cannot survive. I'm curious around your thoughts around carnivore or even keto as a lifestyle to prevent all disease.
Well, this is a good point. Well, we developed the glucose ketone index calculator and published this. This is the way to let people know whether or not they're in ketosis. So some people say, oh, yeah, I eat a ketogenic diet. I said, what's your GKI? Well, I never measured it. Well, how do you know you're in ketosis? You have to have a blood measurement to know where you are, not what you think. So the Keto Mojo meter, which is available through Amazon, allows a lot of, we built it for the cancer folks so that they can know how to kill their tumor cells and also deliver drugs. When the cancer patient is in ketosis, the drug delivery can kill the tumor cells much more effectively. The drugs take on tremendous power when the patient is in ketosis. Even then, you can cut all your chemotherapy drugs in half or even lower than that sometimes. Really has tremendous power. But the guys who are just in the society that want to stay healthy and think they're in nutritional ketosis, they can use the meter to see whether or not they're in that state. Now, my good friend Dom D'Agostino is always in ketosis. Dom eats meat, eggs, certain vegetables and things. He's just eating more of a Paleolithic lifestyle. And so, I mean, you have to think of our Paleolithic ancestors ate a lot of meat, but the meat was organic. I mean, you know how much energy it takes to run after a deer and kill it and then drag it back and cut it up and eat it? You got to use a lot of energy on this. And then what are you eating? Organ meat, you're eating the flesh. There's not a lot of carbohydrates in this. But you get a lot of energy. So if now vegans, I understand they may have an adverse whatever, but if our ancestors were vegans, you and I would not exist today on the planet.
Thank you. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? So
no, but I'm just saying you have to go back Paleolithic period.
Yeah, I'm not anti anything. I think that if you believe in something and if it works for you, do it. But the fact that even you're saying, Professor, that it's really unlikely that our ancestors were vegans, that you could actually survive on a no meat diet. Thank you.
Yeah, you couldn't. It would be impossible. Yeah. Because we didn't have farm. Now today, because we farm wheat and corn and rice and all this other stuff, you can replace the energy from meat with enough farmed vegetables and things like this. you can certainly, for religious or cultural reasons, you can certainly replace meat with vegetables for today. The issue that we're finding, it's a little bit more difficult to get into nutritional ketosis on a purely vegan diet. You can, but you have to eat very few, like eat, one leaf of lettuce every other day. Yeah, you'll get into ketosis for sure, but again, it's going back to water only fasting or this kind of thing. That gets you into ketosis, but it's hard. It's not easy. So when we look at cancer patients, we usually I don't, because I'm not a physician. My physician colleagues will say you have to go on a zero carb diet for about 10 to 14 days. You can eat some meat, fish, and things like this, or plants, whatever brings you down into nutritional ketosis. And then the step off from nutritional ketosis to water only fasting, it's not such a dramatic jump. If you go cold turkey, if you're eating a high carb diet or just a Western diet, and then stop eating that for several days, man, it's tough. I mean, it's not easy at all. You're very uncomfortable, headaches, shaking, all this kind of stuff. But if you do a zero carb diet for 10 or 14 days, the jump now to water only fasting is much less stressful on the body. The body now has acclimated itself, and that's the best way to really get into this ketotic state. And, some people like Dom D'Agostino, he's always in this state because that's his diet. He's always active, a lot of physical activity. He eats foods that are very low in carbohydrates, very highly nutritious, and he's always in nutritional ketosis. And a lot of folks are like that. They do these Paleolithic things and stuff like that. But you can measure your GKI so that you know whether, and is it good to stay in this zone forever? No, I mean, Dom seems to do it. He likes, he'll eat all kinds of things to keep him in that zone. But most folks in the society don't. You want to go out, you're in France, every now and then you like a baguette with a little foie gras. I mean,
I had the foie gras, but I didn't have the baguettes because when I have the baguette, I just feel terrible. So I was like, you know what, foie gras, I'm going to try some foie gras while I'm in France. But with the baguette, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to pass because I feel terrible the next day. I
feel good. I have to be honest.
Do you feel good?
Feel good absolutely. You kidding me? You rub that big foie gras all over the baguette. It's great. But you don't do it every day. You're not sitting there every day pounding down big baguettes with foie gras. I mean, let's be honest.
Yes.
So, but every now and then, I mean, I live in this society too, and I'll eat a donut every now and then. I'm not going to, this donut's going to kill me. Yeah, if I ate it every day, it might kill me, but I'm not going to eat one every day. But it's just, moving in and out. You've got to know that if you get sick or you start feeling bad, I tell you one thing, if you start feeling bad for whatever reason, don't eat for several days. Whatever was bothering you generally goes away.
And that's the water fasting, which is really, really, really hard. But you mentioned the GKI, so the glucose ketone index. And I think I'm going to get questions from people watching around, can you tell us more about that? So you mentioned the Keto Mojo. What are some numbers that we should be looking at? Like you have a Keto Mojo, how often should I be testing? Is it before or after food? What time of day? What are some numbers that I should be hitting? I know I'm going to get these questions.
No, but those are all good. And there's a lot of folks on the web talking about GKI values. And, I built the diet. I built my students and I built this GKI for the cancer patients to help them. Then I realized all these health gurus are out there and they're all like seeing who can get the lowest GKI and feel the healthiest and all this kind of stuff. They have no cancer and they have no chronic diseases. They just want to feel good and see how low they can get their GKI. Now for cancer, based on the patient's feedback, if you can get a GKI value of 2.0 or below, and even below 1, you're definitely in ketosis. That's where the millimolar of ketone